Welcome to Summarize Stories. Thanks for listening to our review of The Picture of Dorian Gray, a novel written in 1890 by Oscar Wilde. We will provide a summary of the book, what happens, and how it ends. Then we will break down the key characters, discuss key themes of the book, and provide our final thoughts. Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray is a Gothic philosophical novel that explores themes of vanity, morality, and corruption. The story follows Dorian Gray, a young man whose extraordinary beauty captivates those around him, ultimately leading him down a path of hedonism, moral decay, and destruction. The novel begins with Basil Hallward, an artist who becomes obsessed with painting Dorian's portrait, believing his beauty to be a source of artistic inspiration. Through Basil, Dorian meets Lord Henry Wotton, a witty and cynical aristocrat who introduces him to a hedonistic philosophy, one that emphasizes the pursuit of pleasure and youth above all else. Enchanted by these ideas, Dorian expresses a wish that he could remain forever young while his portrait ages in his place. This wish mysteriously comes true, and as Dorian indulges in a life of excess and cruelty, the painting begins to change, reflecting the corruption of his soul. One of Dorian's first cruel acts is the rejection of Sybil Vane, a young actress he briefly falls in love with. After she gives a lackluster performance, he cruelly dismisses her, leading to her suicide. Disturbed but unwilling to take responsibility, Dorian fully embraces Lord Henry's worldview and begins a life of secret depravity. Over the years, he ruins reputations, destroys lives, and engages in increasingly immoral activities, all while maintaining his youthful appearance. As rumors about Dorian's mysterious agelessness grow, Basil confronts him, urging him to repent. In response, Dorian shows him the now hideous portrait, which has become grotesque with every sin Dorian has committed. In a fit of rage, Dorian murders Basil and blackmails a former friend, Alan Campbell, into disposing of the body. Despite his attempts to escape guilt, Dorian becomes increasingly paranoid and desperate. After being confronted by Sybil's vengeful brother, James Vane, Dorian narrowly escapes death when James is accidentally killed in a hunting accident. This convinces him that he is untouchable. Believing he can redeem himself, Dorian decides to change his ways. However, when he checks the portrait, he sees that it has become even more grotesque. His attempts at redemption were selfish and insincere. In a moment of panic and self-loathing, he stabs the painting, unknowingly fulfilling his fate. The next morning, his servants find an unrecognizable old man's corpse on the floor, with the portrait restored to its original beauty. Dorian, in his pursuit of eternal youth and pleasure, has ultimately destroyed himself. Key characters: Dorian Gray, a beautiful and impressionable young man who becomes corrupted by the pursuit of hedonism and eternal youth, leading to his downfall. Lord Henry Wotton, a cynical aristocrat who introduces Dorian to a philosophy of pleasure and self-indulgence, influencing his descent into immorality. Basil Hallward, a devoted artist who idolizes Dorian and represents morality and virtue. He serves as a contrast to Lord Henry and ultimately becomes one of Dorian's victims. Sybil Vane, a talented actress who falls in love with Dorian but is cruelly discarded by him. Her suicide marks Dorian's first significant moral downfall. James Vane, Sybil's brother, who seeks revenge on Dorian for his sister's death. His pursuit of Dorian ends when he is accidentally killed. Alan Campbell, a former friend of Dorian who is blackmailed into disposing of Basil's body. His involvement in Dorian's crimes leads him to take his own life. Key themes: aestheticism and the superficiality of beauty. The novel critiques the idea that beauty and youth are the most valuable traits, showing how this obsession leads to moral decay, moral corruption, and consequences. Dorian's unchecked pursuit of pleasure and self-indulgence leads to his ultimate destruction. Duality of human nature. The contrast between Dorian's outward appearance and the grotesque painting symbolizes the hidden darkness within him. Influence and manipulation. Lord Henry's influence over Dorian highlights the power of words and ideas in shaping one's destiny. Guilt and redemption. Dorian's eventual realization of his sins and his failed attempt at redemption demonstrate the impossibility of escaping one's true nature. Final thoughts. The Picture of Dorian Gray remains one of literature's most compelling examinations of vanity, corruption, and the pursuit of pleasure at any cost. Wilde's sharp wit and philosophical undertones create a haunting narrative that forces readers to question the nature of morality and self-indulgence. Dorian's downfall serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked hedonism, the consequences of vanity, and the perils of external influence. His transformation from an innocent young man into a ruthless, paranoid individual is both tragic and mesmerizing. The novel's themes remain relevant today as society continues to grapple with the obsession over beauty, youth, and the avoidance of moral responsibility. With its gothic horror elements and psychological depth, The Picture of Dorian Gray is a timeless classic that continues to captivate readers. If you enjoyed this 5-minute summary, be sure to check out our next video by clicking the icon in the bottom left of your screen.